So we had a good chazara of a Gemara that we learned earlier. We learned earlier a machloikis between Reb Meir, who says mili memser and l'shliach, and Reb Yosy, who holds mili loy memser and l'shliach. And we also learned that Reb Yosy, who holds mili loy memser and l'shliach, also holds that oimer imru doesn't work, which means that even if the husband specifically instructs Reuven, go to Shimon and tell Shimon to do something, that is still going to have the concern of Mili. So he can't even instruct Reuven to tell Shimon. Not only can Reuven not tell Shimon on his own, but even if Reuven gets direct instruction from the husband to tell Shimon, it doesn't work either. That is what the machlokes we had earlier about Reb Yosy and Reb Meir. We also learned that Shmuel, he agreed with Reb Yosy that meaning the memster l'shliach, but he held, unlike Reb Yosy, that Omer Imru does work, and it was because of that that Shmuel had a suffix. If you tell two people kisvu tnu get leishti, do they have to actually write the get, or do I just mean that they have to sign the get? Because Omer Imru works. So if in fact I am instructing you only to sign the get, so I'm implying that you should get somebody else to write the get, so that would be a good get, even though a third party wrote it, as long as the two Eidim that I appointed signed it. But if my intention, when I say kisut nu get leishti, is that you too should actually write the get yourself and sign it, well then a get that somebody else, a sofer, was told to write by these two Eidim would be invalid because it's not consistent with the appointment of the husband. And that's why Shmuel back there had it a suffix, and he said Teitze, she would have to leave her second husband if she got married with this get, and it remains a suffix. So our Gemara, we had a Mishnah that at the beginning of the Mishnah it implies that the Mishnah holds like Reb Meir, because the Mishnah just said that the problem with this get was he only said kisvu, he didn't say kisvu utnu. Mashma, if he said kisvu utnu, it would work, which would be consistent with Reb Meir holds mili memser l'shliach. But then the last line of the Mishnah says the only time it does work is if there's a direct command from the husband to the sofer and a direct command from the husband to the Eidim, which indicates that the Mishnah is going according to Reb Yosy. So the Gemara at first said that it must be that the Reish of the Mishnah is Reb Meir and the Sefer of the Mishnah is Reb Yosy. The Gemara tried to say that Kula Reb Yosy, and the question is if it was Omer Imru or not. Meaning that in the first case there was no Omer Imru, but if it was Omer Imru it would be good. But the Gemara didn't like that because the Gemara proved, just like we once proved in the past, that Reb Yosy holds that Omer Imru doesn't work. And the raya was from the fact that Rabbi Yirmiyah said that the Mishnah, that there's a Mishnah that says Chasam Sofer ve'ed Shaninu, which means that it's mutter for the Sofer of the get to also be one of its signatories. The only way that you can allow the Sofer of the get to be one of its Eidim without being concerned that there's a disaster in the making is if you hold Omer Imru doesn't work. Because then the Sofer will only sign if he gets a direct instruction from the husband to sign. Because if the Sofer would be allowed to sign without being directly instructed from the husband to sign, then we would be afraid that the husband B'dafka didn't want the Sofer to sign, but the Eidim that are appointing the Sofer, that are hiring the Sofer, are embarrassed to say so, and they'll tell the Sofer to sign. The Sofer will think, in fact, that the Bailam wanted him to sign. The Sofer will sign, and now it's a partial get because the Bailam, in fact, did not want the Sofer to sign. But if you hold Omer Imru doesn't work, then that's not a concern that will happen, because the Sofer will not sign the get just because the Eidim told him to. He will only sign the get if he's directly instructed from the husband to sign. So therefore, it must be that Reb Yosy holds that Omer Imru does not work. And I believe if we got on to Amud Aleph, we must have gotten up to Al Machaberta, Reish Reb Meir v'Sefer Reb Yosy, the Mishnah, the Gemara is settling on the fact that our Mishnah must be, first half of the Mishnah must hold like Reb Meir, that Mili Memser and L'Shliach. And the last line of the Mishnah, it says that it only works with direct instruction from the husband, both to the Sofer as well as to the Edom. That is only consistent with Reb Yosy, that not only is Mili Memser and L'Shliach, but even Omer Imru does not work. Thank you much. Reb Ashi wanted to make an attempt to say Kula Reb Yosy. Maybe it is all going according to Reb Yosy. But what the Mishnah is saying, it's a build-up. The loy mi boy kamer. So the first case of the Mishnah says loy mi boy heichad loy amar tnu. The first case of the Mishnah is you didn't say tnu, you just said kisvu. There for sure it doesn't work. Elafilu amar tnu, even if you said tnu, which means normally it means a minui of bezdin, which means I'm instructing bezdin to be in charge of the get, but not to actually do it themselves. Loy, it still wouldn't work according to Reb Yosy, because again that's milu. And it's pashut if there's three people. If there's no three people, that's for sure not a minui of bezdin, because I'm only speaking to two people. Even if I instructed three people to say tanu, lo, it wouldn't work, because Rabbi Yosy holds immediately memser and l'shliach. These are all steps in Chiddush that are not the Farish mentioned in the Mishnah, but they're steps along the way to the final steps that the Mishnah does specifically list. It wouldn't work. Even I specifically instructed the Bezdin to instruct other people, and I specify who they should appoint. According to Rabbi Yosy, it still wouldn't work because Omer Imru doesn't work, and that's the final line of the Mishnah. It's not good until the husband directly instructs both the Sefer as well as the Edom. We have support to say like Rav Ashi. And specifically, what are we trying to prove? That Rashi is the Omer Imru Nami Posel Rabbi Yosy. We want to prove that Rabbi Yosy holds Omer Imru is Posel. Now we've already proven it from Reb Chisda because of the Chsam Sofer Sheninu, but we're going to show from a different brisa as well. It says as follows: Kosav Sofer Lishma. If the Sofer wrote the get Lishma, the Chasm Edom Lishma, and the Edom wrote Lishma, Afapi Shekasvu Vichasmu, even though it was written and it was signed, and Vinosnu Loi, and it was turned over to the husband, Vinosnu Law, and then the husband turned it over to the wife. Haraya get bottled, the get will be bottled, and this is the key word, Ache Yishmu Koiloi. These two words are the words that the Gemara is going to be medayik from. Ache Yishmu Koiloi, Sheyoymar, until his voice is heard, Sheyoymar LeSofer, that he instructs the Sofer, Ksoiv, right? Ula Edem Chasum. So the Gemara, the word Yishmu, we want to be medayik. Yishmu, they have to hear it themselves. Lafuke Mimanda Amar Moidir Rabbi Yosy Ba'omer Im. This shows that they have to hear it with their own ears. Clearly, Omer Imru does not work. Now, why is there a lashon of koiloi? Achi yishmu mipiabal. First up is it 6 koiloi after his voice. That is lafukim Rav Kahana Marav. We started off the sugya with Rav Kahana Marav, the Friedrich sugya with Rav Kahana Marav, who said that a cherish gomer can provide instruction. Siva. This brisa is showing that it doesn't hold like that Rav Kahana Marav, because it says koiloi. They have to hear instruction from his voice, not from a written appointment. Zok the Heilige Mishnah Beit. Ze gitach im mesi. This should be your get if I die. Ze gitach mechayle ze. This should be your get if I die from this sickness. Or ze gitach la'achar misa. I want this get to be chal after I die. Lo yamar klum. And Rashi says, in mashma, each of these cases, the third case is very clear, la'achar misa, but even the first two cases of Rashi are mashu lichisha amos. I want to get to be chal once I die. They didn't get la'achar misa. So he's turning the get over to his wife while he's very much alive, but he's saying as he's turning the get over, Zagit Chemesi, which Rashi tells us means, I want this get to be chal after I die. He is obviously not such a Talmud Chacham. He thinks he can give a get after his death, but the fact of the matter is he can't, so therefore this get will not work. And if they don't have children and there's a brother, she would be Zakok to Yibum. What about Mehayoim Imesi or Me'achshav Imesi? So that's already saying that he wants it to be chal. Now, if I end up dying, I want the get to be chal right now. So there, harei get. That will be for sure a get. Why? Because he's stating that I want it to be chal now. He's just making a tanai. Okay, there's a very interesting tosfos over here. Me'ayoim imesi. I want it to be from today. If I die, me'achshav imesi. So let me ask you a question. When he says me'achshav imesi, if I give her the get at 10 a.m., then me'achshav means I want the get to be chal this moment. Should I die in my tonight period? But when I say me'hayoim imesi, do I mean from today now, or maybe I mean from the end of the day? And the nafkamina would be if he dies today, is she migureshes or not? So Tosfos specifically discusses this shaila. So let's look at Tosfos. Mehayoim imesi me'achshav imesi erase again. Kosav Rabbeinu Tam mehayoim imesi imes boy bayoim lo yadana ma'odem bey. If he died that day, I don't know if she's migureshes or not, because what did he mean? That the get should be chal right now, or the get should be chal today? Maybe after his death. Rabbeinu Elchanan nira the mehayoim have a kemoy me'achshav. Mehayoim is just like he said from this moment. The daito should get la'alter. He meant the get should be chal immediately. The mistama, the lakach noitzin get. Why is he giving the get? Sheyarei lamas. He's afraid he's going to die. Ein loy lira shem yamas boy beyoim. Is he 100% sure he's not going to die today? No, he thinks he might even die today. So he surely means me'achshav, even though he said me'ayoim. Ela vaday la'alter ka'amar shehi get. When we call mokim nachan lahakmer halacha lemaisa, Tosfos feels you should be machmer. The Chachamim told we shouldn't have such shilas. Okay, let's see the more weiter. Let's see the Mishnah weiter. I'm sorry? Yeah, very good. Mehayoim ula'achar misa. What if he says mehayoim ula'achar misa? That's get ve'ena get. Why is that a get ve'ena get? Because Rashi explains we're not sure if he means mehayoim or if he means la'achar misa. Now, if it's a sovek mugureshes, the nafkamina la'alacha is v'meis chayletas v'loy mishabemis. If he dies without children, we don't know if she's zakuk to Yibum. So therefore, she can't just go free, but she cannot do Yibum either because she might be Migureshes. Therefore, she will require Chalitza. This is an important Rashi. Me'ayoim ul'achamisa get feina get. Because Rashi, you know why? Because Mesaf Galon, itna hava me'ayoim imemus. Does he mean a Tanai, which means he wants it to be Chal right now? V'chivin shemeis neskayim atnai v'nimtla shu get neshas nesinos. Right? Or maybe it was a Chazara. He was a schizophrenic. He said me'ayoim, and then he said, no, I mean ul'achamisa. So he corrected himself. And if it's a chazara, and he corrected himself, he amar la'achamisa, you get. And therefore, because there's no such thing as a get la'achamisa. Now, when someone says he gives someone a matana, he says la'achamisa, there we don't have a suffix what he means. There we know for sure what he means, because ikal meimer, what he means is gufa ma'ayoim. It's not a chazara. I want you to be kind of a guf from right now. But since I'm still alive, I want to pay her. So he's giving, let's say, a tree, a decal. You could have the decal now, but I still want to be able to eat the pears as long as I'm alive. Uper lachamisa. So it's not a stira. Me'ayoim ula'achamisa. Me'ayoim ula'achamisa is not a contradiction. It's structuring the transition of the asset. Here you can't say that. It's either mugureshes or not mugureshes. There's no part mugureshes. V'imishim tana, and if it was a tanai, hava leila meimer mehayoim imesi, not mehayoim ula achamisa. So there's a little bit of a nusach here that makes it sound like it's not a tanai, and therefore it remains a soft. But the Gemara Parach Maishna Meresha, the Gemara is going to ask, why is it different than harei gidach imesi, where for sure it's not a good get? Chaylet Hashem me'ina get, v'lo mishabemes Hashem getu, v'avelo grushas achiv, v'kaima lo bekaris hayol v'loyas. Okay. Now let's try another one. Zeh gitech mehayoim imesi mechoylezeh. He said, Zeh gitech mehayoim, if I die from this sickness. V'amad v'holach b'shuk, and he was healthy for a couple of days. He seemed to have recovered. And then v'chalo umes, he died right away. Now the question is, was this a relapse of the original sickness, and therefore it was a get? Or is this a whole new sickness, and it's not a get? So you have to make an assessment, a medical assessment. Imach mascholi yarishon meis, hareza get. V'ma veina get. Zok to Gemara, Alma you see, im meisi is kalachem isidam. The first case of the Mishnah, where he said Zegitech meisi, it means that he's trying to say that I want to get to be kalachem isa. V'hadar tani mehayoim im meisi, me'achshav im meisi. What was the case of mehayoim im meisi, me'achshav im meisi? So the Gemara said, it is a get. So imesi is not a get, but mehayoim imesi is a get. But the problem is, imesi is a loshon of achamisa. So alma imesi is lav kal achamisa dami. Does the word imesi mean I want to get to be chal achamisa, and therefore it's not a good get like it says in the Reisha? Or does mehayoim imesi mean it should be chal now, and imesi is just at night? Or, and therefore it would work. So that is our problem. Does imesi mean that it's chal achamisa or not? Seems to be a contradiction in the Mishnah. Amar Abaye, it's not a contradiction at all. You have to look at the context. Imesi shtei l'shonesh mashma. It can go both ways. Mashma kimei achshav, which is what it would mean in the second case of the Mishnah, or it could be mashma kal achamisa, as it means in the Reisha of the Mishnah. Amar le mehayoim. If he said mehayoim imesi, mehayoim makes all the difference in the world. It's command amalama achshav damik, and that's why the Mishnah in the second case says that it's a good get. But loy amar loy mahayoim, v'ji said zegitech imesi, well then it's command amalala lachamisa dami, and that's why the Mishnah says with burritos that it's not a good get. Zegitech imesi loy amar klub. Once again, we're analyzing the first case of the Mishnah. Amar Afuna. Now, if we wouldn't have heard from Rapuna, loy amar klub means it's not a get, and therefore she requires yibum or chalitza, but she can do yibum because she's for sure not megureshes. Amar Rafuna v'chaletzes. Rafuna said no, it's still a suffix. She still needs chalitza. Interesting. The Mishnah didn't speak out that you need chalitza until the third case, where it was a suffix. Masha, the first case is not a suffix at all. Yet Rav Huna is now saying that even the first case of the Mishnah, where our Mishnah seems to say with clarity, ein no get, Rav Huna says there's a suffix here that maybe it was a good get, and therefore we still cannot allow her to do yibum. Practically more, but that's not what the Mishnah says. How could Rav Huna interpret the Mishnah where the Mishnah clearly seems to indicate that his pshat is not true? Because v'haloy amar klum katan. Loy amar klum means it's zero zilch get, and of course, she would be mechuyev in yibum. Why wouldn't you allow her to do yibum? Dr. Gemara, Rav Huna understands the wording of the Mishnah. Lo yamar klum, meaning the asira la alma, which means that she's usher to the veld right now while her husband's alive because the get is not a good get. We're only makmer that it's not a good get. But uliyavim nama yasir. But she would still be usher to the yavim after her husband dies because we still are choshev that maybe it was a get. Correct the Gemara, but look at the next case of the Mishnah. The Mishnah only brings up this concept of suffix in this Sefer, where you said me'achshav ulachamisa, ma'yom ulachamisa. That's where it's a suffix. Mechlal dereisha yibuma yame miyabma. It must be that from our Mishnah, you see that in the Reisha, when the Mishnah said einay klum, it means she's a regular Reisha ish, and of course she can do yibum. So it's shver. How could Rav Huna interpret a Mishnah when it seems to be very clear that our Mishnah holds that that's not true, and in fact she's even misyabemes? Zok to Gemara, that is correct. You are correct. Masnisin k'Rabbanan. Our Mishnah holds like the Rabbanan, and according to the Rabbanan, Rav Huna agrees that it's not chayletzes. But Rav Huna is saying, I don't paskin like our Mishnah. I paskin like Rabbi Yosy, who disagrees with our Mishnah. Rav Huna, the Omar Krab Yosy, let me just see the Bach, because he has an Aleph that slightly changes the Girsa. Rav Huna Krab Yosy. Oh, and he takes out the Omar. But Rav Huna Krab Yosy, the Omar Zmanoi shel shtar moichiach. Rabbi Yosy has a very interesting concept. If I say hareza gittin imesi, right? That means what is the critical date? If I want to get to be chal la'achar misa, what is the critical date? The date of my death, right? But the problem is when I gave her the get, it was written on that get the day that I actually handed it to her. Why would I put that date on if it's completely irrelevant? It's completely irrelevant the date that I handed her the get because I don't want the get to happen that day. All that's relevant is the date of the death. Zok Rabbi Yosy v'balt, I put a date on that get. It shows that I want it to be chal from now. The Omar is manoi shel shtar moichiach. Let me just finish. So therefore, since Rabbi Yosy would disagree with our Mishnah, and he would hold Zagitich Hamesi actually does mean or could mean Limafreya, therefore, let's see Rashi, who clearly explains what Rabbi Yoshi's Shita is. Zok to Gemara Masnisin, Zok Rashi Masnisin, the boy Mayoim is Kirabana the Pligi of Rabbi Yosy B'yesh Neichlin. So this question was not related to a Machlekes by Gittin. This was related to Machlekes by a Matana. The Katani, it says over there, Hakoisiv Kol Nechasav Levnoi. If someone writes over all of his assets to a son and a star, in order for it to work, he has to write in the star mehayoymu la'achamisa. Be'iloi, if not, havale matana la'achamisa, which wouldn't work because it's already goes Yerusha to the normal channels of Yerusha. Get la'achamisa, and the same thing would be with get. For Afuna Rabbi Yosy the Amar Hasam Einoi Tzarech, you don't have to write mehayoymu la'achamisa. Because even if you write in the star that I want you to have this la'achamisa, but since there's a date, today's date, on that star, it shows that you want it to be chal mehayoyim. Because savar zamani shel star mechichalov the mehayoyim nasaloi eskufa karka. It must be that he's giving the gufa karka from today, because otherwise, why would the date have been written in that star? And the payers, the father can continue to eat until he dies. If he wasn't intending to give the guf hakarka from right now, from the time of the Nesinas, the shtar matana, lama nichtav zman v'shtar matana. Why did he bother putting the date in? Today's date is irrelevant. So the fact that there's today's date shows that I want something to be occurring right now. So too in the case of the get, even if you give a woman a get, and you say raise a get to chemesi, but the fact is there's a date on that get. Rabbi Yosy holds that makes it already a suffix that maybe it's chal from now, maybe it is a good get, and therefore it's chayletzes or lo mishaben.
Yosy, don't we require a date on the get to protect buyers of fields? Wasn't that a requirement?
So that once again, if the date is on that star, if the date is on that star, obviously I want it to be chal now. Yeah. That's exactly the point. If I didn't want it to be chal until my death, then that's the date of my death. So I think what you're doing is you're proving the point even more. The date is showing clearly that I want something to be occurring today.
But isn't it? I thought that it was a takana to require the date on the get to protect the buyer of the field, so that they would not be.
That's in fact if the transaction is chal today. But if the transaction is not chal today, putting the date on the star would actually be wrong.
Because that's right. The whole issue of the predated debt, predated.
So that's exactly Rabbi Yosy's point. Since a get does indicate that that's when things occurred, you have a good raya from the time of the get.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It's consistent with this. There's reason to believe that something is occurring now. There's some transfer occurring at this moment because the date's indicating that. So, Frank the Gemara, if Rabbi Yosy doesn't have a suffix in the case of matana, Rabbi Yosy said it's chal me'achshav, and the guf hakarka is nikne immediately to the person who he's writing that shtar matana to. So if it's vadai there, it should be vadai here as well. So Zok the Gemara, Rabbi Yosy chalitza nami loyti boy. There shouldn't be any chalitza required because in fact the get would be chal me'achshav. So according to Rav Huna, why is it still a suffix? And if you're going to say maybe Rav Huna is not passing like Rabbi Yosy, but Rav Huna is unsure if we pass like Rabbi Yosy. Therefore, he said chayletzes because maybe we pass like Rabbi Yosy. Zok the Gemara, you cannot say that. Umi misapkalei. Can you argue that Rav Huna is not sure as to whether or not we paskin like Rabbi Yosy? Well, Rabbi Barabua cholash. Rabbi Barabua became sick. Oil ligabei Rav Huna v'Rav Nachman. Rav Huna and Rav Nachman came to visit him, and it seems like whenever Gedolim go to visit other Gedolim, they always ask him in learning a question. You would think the guy's sick in bed, don't bother him now. No, they would always automatically ask him a shayla. Now, if you remember, we once had another Gemara about two people going to visit someone that was sick, and the Gemara said that they asked him a shayla that he answered with a kol v'chomer, and we learned, and I'm trying to remember the makor of it, but we learned at the time that the best refuah for somebody is to make a kal v'chomer. A kal v'chomer is mesugel. A kal v'chomer is mesugel to heal people. Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. It's the first of the Yugad Leos. I mean, when Miriam was sick with Saras, Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Kel na rafan Allah," and that was a kal v'chomer, right? If her father spit in her face, she would be embarrassed 7 days. Kol shkein if the Rebbeinu Yishlaylam. So you see what the trigger that led to the refu of Miriam was a kal v'chomer. So making a kal v'chomer by someone who's sick, that is a skula for a refu shalema. So let's look at this story. Oy legabei Rav Huna v'Rav Nachman. Amalei Rav Huna Rav Nachman. Rav Huna asked Rav Nachman, "Boimne me Rabba Baravu. Do me a favor, Rav Nachman. I'm shy. Ask the Rebbe, halacha Rabbi Yosy or ein halacha. Ask if we pass like Rabbi Yosy or not." Amalei Rav Nachman answered back, Rav Huna, "Taimid Rabbi Yosy lo yadana." You don't even know the reason for Rabbi Yosy. We already do because Rashi taught us. But Rav Nachman was saying you don't even know why Rabbi Yosy says that it's Chal Mayachshav. Halachi Baimine? If you know the Svar of Rabbi Yosy, then go ask him we pass like him. But you didn't even know the Aleph. You don't even know the meaning of the Svar of Rabbi Yosy. So why should you ask him the halacha? This is a kal v'chomer, right? Madich, you don't know the Svara. Kol shekain, you shouldn't be interested as to whether or not we pass like him. So it could be that was this whole thing. They wanted to have a kal v'chomer there to be a refuah for Rabbi Barabuda. Amar lei, so Rabbi Huna told Rav Nachman, don't worry about that. At boy minei halacha, you just ask Rabbi Baravua if we pass like him. V'taimei Rabbi Yosy anamin lach. I'll already tell you after we leave. I'll already tell you the svara. I know the svara. It makes sense that I don't know because Huna Taka didn't know, right? Okay. So to Gemara, boy minei. So he asked him. Amar lei. So Rabbi Baravua answered, Hachi Amar Rav, halacha Rabbi Yosy. The halacha is like Rabbi Yosy. So that's what we're proving from our Gemara. Rav Huna didn't have a suffix. Rav Huna heard from Rabbi Baravua that we know for sure the halacha is like Rabbi Yosy. So why does Rav Huna say in our Mishnah that it's chayletzes? Anyway, Labasha the Nafak, after they left, Amar lei, Rav Huna explained to Rav Nachman, Hanu Tamid Rabbi Yosy, the Kasavar Zmanoi Shel Shtar Moichiach Halav, which we already learned what that means. So that cannot be the suffix. So why is Rav Huna saying chayletzes? If he passes like Rabbi Yosy, it should be avadai a get, and therefore, no chalitza should be required. Elamesavkala, you know what Rav Huna's suffix is? Why he requires chalitza? Because mesavkala I amar Rabbi Yosy bal peh iloy amar. Let's think about this. In the case of the Shtar Matana, where Rabbi Yosy said Zmanoi shel Shtar Mechiach, he wrote in the Shtar Matana, this get should be la'achar mi. This matana should be la'achar misa, and there's today's date on the get on that shtar matana. So the shtar matana mineu bei screams to us that the guf is nikna now, and the payers are nikna la'achar misa. But in the case of the get, all the get says is haret mugareshes. It's a regular nusach get, and there's a date on it. My words, as I'm handing the get over to her, is what's changing everything. I stuck in Macy. Who said that my verbal expression during the Nesilas Haget should have any impact? Amar Rabbi Yosy bal peh, Amar Rabbi Yosy bal peh, Eloi Amar. Zok Rashi, Kegoyin gabeget, Shekosov kilchosai. The get is written like every other normal get is written. But Ucheshem Moisrula, Oimer Zakita Chamesi. He's just verbalizing that. Hilchach loydami l'shtar. It's not doimit to Rabbi Yosy's argument by shtar, where this whole thing is written in the shtar. Shekimin shekaz about tnai eitel azman bishtar. It's all written in the star. There ikal meimar the zman moichiach the mehayoim ka'amar, because that's how the document was written as a complete document. It's not like an error, a change of mind in the middle of the star. Nothing's crossed out. That's how it's set up. That the guf is now and the parish is lachamisa. Aval al peh in our case, dilma ki mashrin nehele had be mizman the star. Originally, the get was written for today's date, but he was chayzer as he's giving her the get. He doesn't want to give her a get now. He only wants to give it to lachamisa. So maybe he's just being chayzer. Umashrin nehele almanas la'achamisa hoyavle amar mayon. Since he didn't say the word mayon, maybe all he said was la'achamisa. So maybe what he's trying to say is, even though there's a time written in the get of today, I don't want that part. I only want it to be lachamisa. So therefore, he's misufik. Are you suggesting that Rav Huna has that suffix? I'll prove that wrong as well. But if someone said this is going to be your get, if I don't get back on time to be here back in 12 months, and what if this person dies within the 12 months? Ain't no get. It will not be a get. V'tani Allah, and we learned a brisa that further clarifies. Rabbi Seinu hitirua lihinase. The Rabbanon allowed her to get married. Va'amrinon man Rabbi Seinu Omer Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shmuel Beidina the Shari Mishra. It's the Bezdin of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya who were matir shemen of Oivik Yechavim. Right, they asked with Pasakum and Yain Stam, but it was too difficult for Klal Yisrael to accept upon themselves the restriction of only using oil from a Jew. So they were matter oil even not from a Jew. So it's that Bezin that said that she's mutalina. Right? The Savri law Rabbi Yosy, and this Bezin holds like Rabbi Yosy, the Omar Zmanoi shall star moichiachalo. So here you have a case where the get was written with the date that it was given. Yet since he spoke out that it should be a get in my basi mikan bad yud beis chodesh, nevertheless we still say that he meant that it should be chal mehayoim. So you see clearly that Rabbi Yosy says this same halacha even if it's not written in the star. I'm sorry. No, Rabbi Seinu he tiruli hinos. The Rabbi Seinu said it would be a good get. We're talking about the Rabbi Seinu because the Rabbi Seinu holds like Rabbi Yosy that it's a get lachamisa. So therefore she's not megreshes. I'm sorry. So what? No, they're learning it to get lachamisa. It's not a thing. Let's see Rashi. Ain't get right? Ain't get the haloshavya get ad yud beis chodesh havala get la'achamisa. Right? That's how they learn. It was only the Rabbi Seinu who said it's a good get because they hold like Rabbi Yosy who says that the zmanei shall star marchiachalov, even though my wording said la'achamisa. So Zok the Gemara. Correct. So he really nasi means it was a good get. Right. That was right. That's a good get. Zok the Gemara Ella misavkele. So why did Rav Huna say chayletzes? And Masavkle Rav Huna's suffix must be Yalacha Rabbi Yosy Balpeh or Ein Halacha. So okay, you've proven without a doubt that Rabbi Yosy says it's halacha even Balpeh. So his suffix is yes, we pass like Rabbi Yosy for sure if it's written in the star. But do we also pass like Rabbi Yosy if it was Balpeh? Correct. You can't say that's his suffix either. Umi Masavkle the Omer Rava Hareza Gittin Imesi Vishani Meis Hareza Ged. Then it is a get. But if he says Kisha Amos, or he's a get, he says this should be a get. Achamisa ain't a get. Yes, Imesi is one, Shani Mace is a second. That would be a good get. But Kisha Amos, Achamisa ain't a get. Hechadam. So let's analyze these two cases. Ilema the Omer law mehayoim. If it's speaking in a case where he said mehayoim, so the first case was hareza gitach. Imesi v'shani means hareza get. So if this is a case where I said mehayoim, correct the Gemara, v'Rabbanon, and it's going according to Rabbanon, not according to Rabbi Yosy. Shricha l'meimar. Do I need Rava to tell me this halacha that when you said mehayoim, it's koina, it works now. But Hanan, we have a Mishnah that says that. Mehayoim imesi, hareza get. That's what our Mishnah says. I don't need Rava to repeat for us something that the Mishnah says already. Velalav, Rava must be speaking in a case. He didn't say mehayoim. So what is the case over here? He said hareza gitach imesi v'shani meis, but he didn't say mehayoim. So why would it be a good get? According to the Rabbanan, it surely wouldn't be a good get. But according to Rabbi Yosy, because manoi shall star marchiach, yes, that would be chal mehayoim. So it must be that Rava, when he said his halacha hareza gitach imesi or v'shani meis hareza get, that must be going according to Rabbi Yosy, and he didn't say mehayoim. Shema no halacha Rabbi Yosy. Clearly, you see that Rava l'chal hapachos paskin like Rabbi Yosy, even in the case of get, where he's merely saying that he wants it to be chal la'achamisa. So how could you say Rav Huna has a suffix? So I don't understand the problem. L'Rava pshitale, l'Rav Huna was afkale. Rava was sure, and in fact, Rava, according to Rabbi Yosy, would hold that it's a perfectly good get, and she would be able to do. She would not even need chalitza at all. And Rav Huna had a suffix. Let's say that Rava was not speaking about Rabbi Yosy. Rava was going according to Rabbanan, and he said me'ayoim. You're going to ask me, the Mishnah says that the Farish, why do I need Rava to tell me that? Rabbanan. The Hani Lishni is strichle. It's just trying to point out that these Lashonis will work. Shani Meis is Ke'imesi, because in our Mishnah, the case was mehayoim imesi. Here the Lashon is mehayoim sha'ani meis. So the first case of imesi, yes, that's no first in the Mishnah. But the second case of this sha'ani meis is not no first in the Mishnah. So maybe that's the whole chiddush, is that sha'ani meis has the same status of imesi dam. Or in the second half of the brayso, kisha amos means kala achamisa dam. So at the end of the day, we're saying that Rav Huna is a suffix. Do we paskin like Rabbi Yosy, even though we know for sure Rabbi Yosy said it's halacha even by Gittin? Do we paskin like Rabbi Yosy by Gittin or not? Ve'ika demasni la aseifa. There are those who quote Rav Huna's halacha that it's a suffix, and therefore you need chalitza. It's referring to a completely different case in our Mishnah, and that is the following: if someone said a that is for sure not a good get. Because they get lachamisa. Omar Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, "Ulediver Rabbi Yosy," and according to Rabbi Yosy, there would be chalitza. Zok Rashi. Ulediver Rabbi Yosy the Omar. He lo Omar me'ayoim. Command the Omar me'ayoim dami. Chalitza, she would still get chalitza. This man ashtar havalei keme'ayoim. This man in the star is as if he spoke out me'ayoim. And when he gave her the get, the Amar and told her, this should be your get, misaf galon, we have a suffix, itno hava, if it's a tnai, or it's chazara. So therefore, Amar Apuna, l'divrei Rabbi Yosy choletzes. Break the Gemara, I don't understand. Pshita, mideseifa l'rabbanon choletzes. If in the seifa, where we have a suffix, what he meant. Did he mean me'ayoy, or did he mean lachamisa? According to the Rabbanan, it would be chayletzes. Well, then Reish Nami, Rabbi Yosy chayletzes. They're not arguing when it's a suffix, if he meant me'ayoy, or if he meant lachamisa. Everyone agrees in that case, it would be chayletzes. The whole point Rabbi Yosy made was when it was that the zman shall get is machiach. If it's machiach that it's right now for sure, yes, that's what Rabbi Yosy said with clarity that it will be a get from right now. But in a case where even with this man shall get, it still leaves us with a suffix. So Rabbi Yosy would agree in a case of suffix it's chayletzes. The Rashi made the seifa. He amar mehayoim ul achamisa. In the case where he said mehayoim ul achamisa, tanamas nisin chayletzes l'rabbanan. There, even the Rabbanan hold that it's a suffix if it means from now or not. Rabbi Yosy holds, even if you didn't say Mayoy Mulachimisa, it's also a suffix because of this man I shall get. But the Rabbanan say that if you spoke out Mayoy Mulachimisa, which was the third case in the Mishnah, it's a suffix according to Rabbanan what I meant. So therefore, Mayoy Mulachimisa Tanim Esizim Chayletzes LeRabbanan Michlal the La'achar Misa LeRabbi Yosy Nami Chayletzes. in the case where he only said I raise a gita lacher misa, according to the Rabbanan, that's not a suffix. It's clearly lacher misa. But according to Yosy, even if you said I raise a gita lacher misa, it's as if you said ma'ayom lacher misa according to the Rabbanan. You know why? Because the zman in the get is as if I said ma'ayom, right? That's what Yosy holds. So therefore, in the case of ula achamisa only, according to Yosy, should have the same halacha as mehayom ula achamisa according to the Rabbanan, because it's as if I automatically said mehayom because of the zman in the star. The whole Rabbi Yosy kim mehayom ula achamisa dami. So if someone said mehayom ula achamisa, everybody agrees that's a suffix, right? Everybody agrees that's a suffix. All Rabbi Yosy adds is if you didn't say mehayom, it's as if you said mehayom because the zman shall get meichiyachala. So oy bazoi, in a case where you just said ula achamisa, according to Rabbi Yosy, that should be a case of me'ayom ula achamisa, because the zman of the get automatically makes it as if you said me'ayom. Therefore, Rabbi Yosy v'Rabbanan lo iflad el bala chudah. The whole machlokes they're arguing about is the zman shall get meichiyachala. But when you have stirdik and mashmoisin, they should both agree that it's a suffix. El bala chudah Rabbi Yosy belav me'ayom ki me'ayom. U'Rabbanan yesh chilach. So zog to Gemara, pshita. Midestefel Rabbanon chayletzes, Reishanami Rabbi Yosy chayletzes, because it's as if he said Meyom Ulachamisa. Zok to Gemara, Mao the Tema, Rabbi Yosy, Bahaka Rabbi Sfirale. You might think that there's a secondary machlokes between Rabbi Yosy and the Rabbanon. And by this shaila, maybe Rabbi Yosy holds like Rebbe, the Omar Gita Ma'al Yahava. He holds it's a good get, the Chalitza Nami Loitiboy, and it shouldn't even need a chalitza. Kamash malon the loy Rebbe savalok Reb Yosy, the loy Reb Yosy savalok Reb. So who is this Rebbe that according to Rebbe it should be a good get? Zok Rashi Rebbe Svirle Damel Kamon get who? We'll soon see Rebbe holds it would be a good get. Upolagad Rabbanon because Sabrat Rebbe disagrees with our Mishnah and doesn't say that when someone says Me'achshav Ulachamisa, it's a suffix what he meant. And maybe he's changing his mind. Rebbe rejects that. The Hoyel Ashkan the Rebbe de Polit, the about you find that Rebbe argues on the Rabbanon, and he disagrees that it's not a suffix, it's a Tanai for sure. Ema Rabbi Yosy Nami Polit. Maybe Rabbi Yosy argues on the Chachamim in this halacha as well. Nami Polit Dashminale de Mekel Betnai. You see, he has kulas with Tnai because he says Mani should start Mechlichalav. So maybe he also like Rebbe Kamash Malon that he doesn't. We're already a little bit over time. I'll go to the two dots anyway, but we'll still have to chazard over on Thursday. Okay. Zok to Gemara. Beis Hashem. Kamash Malon on Friday. Kamash Lo Rebbe Savalok Rebbe Yosy. Lo Rebbe Yosy Savalok Rebbe. Rebbe Lo Savalok Rebbe Yosy. How do we know Rebbe does not hold like Rebbe Yosy? The Katani, the nusach that Rebbe used, we'll quote it. We'll see him later. Says Kozeget. Dafka, this case is a get. L'mu'udet Rabbi Yosy to tell us that in Rabbi Yosy's case he disagrees and it wouldn't be a get. Rabbi Yosy, let's have a look at Rabbi the Katani Kazeh get because Rabbi Yosy in a different place, like a different halacha, used the nusach of Kazeh get to tell us l'mu'udet the Rabbi that he disagrees with Rabbi. Rabbi Mahi, where did Rabbi say is halacha that you always learn that if it's nine, not a suffix? The Tanya mehayom ulachamisa get feinegeh divrei chachamim. That's the chachamim in our Mishnah. But Rabbi Yomer kazeh get, that would be a get. Meaning you say for sure it's a tnai, it's not a chazorah. But what was Rabbi's nusach? Kazeh get. Dafke this case where you said beferish mehayom ulachamisa, it's a vade get. But if the only reason why we perceive a mehayom is because this man shall get meichiyachalov, that Rabbi does not argue. Rebbe disagrees with that. So here is where Rebbe told us that he does not hold like Rabbi Yosy. Rabbi Yosy Mahi, where is Rabbi Yosy telling us that he disagrees with Rebbe? Itnam, kisu utnuget leishti, im lebasi mikan vad yud b'schoidesh. Right, and give a get to my wife if I don't return within 12 months. What happens if it's kasvu b'soichlu b'chodesh? What if they didn't wait until after 12 months? They already wrote the get before, but they only gave it. The nosnoi lachir b'schodesh, eino get is what the Tanakama holds. Rabbi Yosy holds because they get, if you wrote the get within the 12 months but didn't give it till after the 12 months, it would still be a kosher get. But he uses a lotion of kozeh get. Dafka, this is a get to tell us that I disagree with Rebbe even though this has nothing to do with Rebbe, but he's saying this B'dafka is a get. He's trying to tell us that don't think that I agree with Rebbe. I don't agree with Rebbe, and in fact, I hold it to something. No, that because I guess because he allows that they would have written the get earlier, but I don't hold like Rebbe. I don't know like Rebbe that you vadai say it's a t'nai and not a chazar, even though that shaila of t'nai of chazar has nothing to do with the case that he's talking about over here. Okay, we went a little bit too fast and we're way over, so on Friday we'll go back a little bit. So we're not a full blood ahead. We're almost a full blood ahead. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. Okay, we're about to finish the seventh parak. I think. Seventh parak is coming to an end. No, not. I know that we're already on the next volume of Masifta.